when they look at the differences between the companies that were doing at 65% to the companies that were having productivity of 85%, the difference was one word, and that was morale. Morale. Staff morale. That's the only difference. So the way that a person feels when they go to work in the morning about their job, about themselves, about their value makes the difference of their productivity. And you know that. We all know that. We all know that when we're feeling crap, we're not productive. We're not.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Organisation Business Podcast. I'm your host, Linh Podetti. My guest today is Leah Akoka, an EO Melbourne member and founder of a company called Wall Street, which she founded in 2001 as the people side of Dodo Internet. She helped Larry Kestelman, founder of Dodo, build a solid and successful business with a team culture that saw it grow from a startup to a company with a varied service offering and over 500,000 clients. Now, as a master practitioner in NLP with passion in behavioural economics, Leah evolved the business to become a leading human resource supplier with clients across more than 15 industries, offering them with a unique 12-point framework called PeopleEconomics. Now, in today's episode, Leah shared tips about how to bring the best out of your employees through her years of experience in HR. But the other interesting challenge that we chatted about was how to get out of the HR box and be known for more than that. And I discovered her tips on how she even runs a successful HR business by not hiring HR people. It was a very interesting conversation, so you don't want to miss this. Well, let's join me in welcoming Leah.
This video is sponsored by Outsourcing Angel, a company that connects you with top quality and affordable remote staff to handle your busy work. Whether you're looking for a social media assistant, an executive assistant, or someone to edit a podcast like this, we can help. Reclaim your time and visit outsourcingangel.com today.
Welcome to the show, Leah. So great to have you here.
It's wonderful to be here.
Well, let's get started. And if you could share with us how you founded your company.
Okay, so 23 years ago, I think it's actually 24 now, it goes pretty quickly, time. I had a friend of mine, Larry Kestelman, who's the founder of Dodo. We bumped into each other on Security Road, and I was working for a national IT services provider at the time, and he had just started Dodo. And we bumped into each other, and he gave me an offer I couldn't refuse, basically. He asked me to join him and help him with the people side of the business. And I did. And yeah, that's history. And from a handful of people to 50 people, 200 people, 400 people. And then we went to the Philippines. And I think by the end of it, I think when the business sold, there was about 3,500 staff.
Wow.
So yeah, it was amazing. And it was an incredible experience. We did many things that went really well, and we did some things that didn't go so well. So there was a lot of failures in there, but they were all lessons that led us to where the business actually finished, or well, we handed it over on. So it was an amazing experience. So that was the start of working with people, and well, it wasn't the start of working with people; it was the start of the business. But the business originally was structured more to support Dodo, and then when the business sold, we needed to restructure it. And the process was interesting because when I went to the market to try and sell what we do to other businesses, and people asked me, "What do you do?" and I would say, "People," and it would be look at me like going, "Okay, what does that mean?" And it was difficult to kind of to box it in such a way that people would understand. So one of my clients today, well, potential clients then and a client today, actually said to me, "You mean HR?" And I kind of thought, oh, okay, well, no, but maybe I do. Maybe that's what we do. So it was the cleanest or simplest box to put us in. So that was the box that we decided to put us in so the market would understand, and that helped us sell our services at the time. And and now we cover 15 industries, and with customers anywhere from 10 staff to thousands of staff. So, yeah.
So what does your company do now? I know you started off with just helping people, and then, like you said, it's boxed into HR, and even the term HR, it's broad. So what is it specifically that you cover nowadays?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's interesting because we had to choose a box at that time. And since then, we've been trying to unbox ourselves. So, so about 7, 8 years ago, I wrote a framework, and it's called PeopleEconomics. And that framework is really taking what's up here and putting it on paper. And that is to help us ensure that we're scalable and we're not so dependent on me. So PeopleEconomics is really about how to get the most out of your people, really. Ultimately, it's about doing a combination of things. And we actually say what we try and do for a business is we help them make their people performance measurable, commercial, and theirs. So they're the three kind of things that we try to achieve with a customer. So does it go under HR? Yeah, it does go under HR, but we're more of an alternative to HR. So I don't actually hire HR people because I find that HR people are quite boxed into the compliance and the risk aspect of it. And because we're giving advice to managers and we're giving advice to CEOs on how to increase the performance of their business through their people, I really need people who have management experience, who've actually done it before. Because it's hard. You need the respect of the person to be able to give them that advice. So you need to have done it before. So that is something that I think is really, really important. I think the theory is all wonderful, but the practice makes most of the difference. So all my staff have either managed people or have managed managers. High they go. And then we teach them the HR component. The compliance part is the easy part, and it's also the part that always changes. Because it changes, you need to be on top of it. So
looking back at the time that Dodo owner found you and said, hey, can you go and do the people part? What was kind of the problem? Like, what did you do to kind of solve his problem? And what did you learn from that you kind of took away and said, okay, this is kind of the foundation to my business?
Okay, interesting. I think what I learned then at the time was that I didn't know anything. And I learned that there was a lot to learn because we started a business that we actually didn't know much about. So it was only after I think we had 25, 30 staff that somebody actually told me, oh, you've got a call center. And I was like, oh, do I? You have a call center? Okay. And then it was, okay, we needed things, and it was, you needed different phone systems, you needed different things, like you needed to think a bit differently. Thought, okay, we've got a call center. I know the call centers that are out there that we're getting the stuff from, they're not very happy there. So I don't want to go copy them. I don't want to learn from them because they're obviously not doing it the best way. So I then did some research to find out who the best call center in the world was. And at that time, long time ago, it was a call center in Ohio owned by two women. And they had won so many awards. And at that stage, it wasn't quite the same as it is now. You couldn't just get on a Zoom call. So I called them and I just told them, listen, this is me. We've opened up this business. We're growing a call center and you're the best. So can I ask you for your advice? We got on a call, the two of them, and they were lovely, absolutely lovely. I was no threat to them. So, 25 people, I had thousands. So no threat to them. And they were amazing. And what I found in picking their brain is that they didn't do things the same way as everyone else. So people kind of go to the easy alternative. Okay, so when we measure performance, people go on this, let's just draw a line where it should be. Okay, so what are your KPIs? What should we be doing? Now, if it's sales per hour, it's 3 per hour, whatever it is. However, okay, so whatever that management is, businesses normally do this graph and they put a line there and go, that's where I want everyone to be. Now, everyone that performs worse than that, we either manage them out. Okay. Or we try and pull them up. And if they can't go up, they get managed out. And the people above the line, well, they get praise, they get commission. But generally, that's nothing much more than that happens. So what they did is they didn't have a line at all. What they did was they took every single individual and they pushed them up a bit. So they gave them individual goals that were 10, 15, 20% higher than their performance. So when you plot that kind of graph, you will always get a higher average. And not restricted with a number. And what you also will do is the ones below the line, you don't manage them out, you lift them up. And what ends up happening is the morale in the business improves. It's a combination of different things. I'm simplifying it obviously, but generally it's about individual management rather than spreadsheet management. Now, spreadsheet management's much easier. Everyone loves to watch a spreadsheet and go send out some instructions out there, but generally it doesn't give you anywhere near the performance that it does to individually manage people. So that's kind of what I learned, and I put a lot of that in place when we manage how we built our teams and our people and how we did things. And I think that was really successful.
That's really interesting. So what are the core questions that you would ask then if you're doing a performance management and it's not all, I guess, Excels and numbers? It's what are the key questions that you could share with us that could really bring out, I guess, any challenges or any growth opportunities for the team members that maybe not performing, maybe, you want to push them up?
Look, ultimately, it's really aligning two things. So first of all, you have to align expectations. What does success look like in that role? And a lot of times what managers don't do, they don't make it clear enough what their expectations are of that individual or of that role. So you have to start there. You have to make it very, very clear what success looks like to the individual. Then you need to be aligned on how you're going to track that success. Okay, so that there's no ambiguity. Okay, so I don't need to tell you you're doing a good job. You'll know because the results are there, whatever it is. Now, some positions, it's obviously easier than others. Sales positions, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
But there are many ways of tracking performance. So that is probably one thing that we do extremely well, is really ensure that people understand how they're going. Now, we use it's called the P&M matrix, which is a performance and morale matrix that is part of PeopleEconomics, the framework. And what that does is that it helps us to be able to talk about how they're going in a very, very clear and simple way without clouding it with, this is going well, but this is not so well. And you overcomplicate it, right? So this is a simplified methodology that basically says you're sitting here, here, or here. And this is what you need to do to move up. Okay? Yeah. So the first is setting those expectations. Second is giving them the feedback. I have never, ever had a staff member tell me that had too much feedback. Okay. But many people have said they haven't had enough. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I guess I was looking for any cool questions that you've come across that you could utilize, but yeah, if you don't have that particular question, because, I remember working with one of my leaders, he said that he had a kind of 4-question framework. And I just thought maybe there's a few questions that usually go through when you're at a performance management meeting. That's all.
Well, no, I don't believe in that. I'm sorry, but I don't believe in the core questions because it's never a cookie cutter approach. Always individual. It's always about the person.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you rehearse what you're going to say, if you've got a formula to follow like that, then you're missing the point.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, everyone's really different. It's really about understanding what's going on and how you can give, in terms of giving back the feedback custom to them. So it's really not a cookie cutter, like you said. So look, going back to the question or the challenge that you were going through, you said that you wanted to, as I'm hearing this now, you are more than just this typical HR company that's all about compliance, and you're more about, building teams and making sure that you understand people. How are you getting out of that box? Do people understand now? Is there a process on how you do get them to realize that, hey, you're more than this?
Getting out of that box has been really difficult, and we're on the journey of getting out of it. So the framework was one of the ways that I did that, or started doing that. So writing the framework, using it out there, and making sure that people understand. Then what we've done is, I suppose, ultimately it's about talking about the objectives the business wants. So our purpose is to increase ultimately the productivity of your staff. That's what it is. I mean, otherwise, if I can't add value to your business, then I I shouldn't be there. So how are we going to add value? And how do we know if we added value? So the first way we do that is we measure. So there's a lot of measuring. You need to know, if you don't measure, you don't improve. You need to measure. So how do we measure? What do we measure? And then what are the differences that we do to ensure that measurement is improving? The base measurement we look at, and these are based on averages and research that have been done globally. There was some research done pre-COVID, and they took, I think, 1,000 businesses, and they looked at the performance, the productivity of their employees on average. Mm-hmm. And the average businesses were getting, pre-COVID, 65% productivity. That was the average businesses. The better businesses were getting 85%.
Yep.
Post-COVID, they did the same study. So 2023, only last year, they did the same study, and the average businesses dropped to 60. Mm-hmm. That's quite interesting. The top didn't change. That was still at 85. Yeah. So ultimately, our job is to take you from wherever you are, if you're on average or you're above average, and improve that. Now, we do analysis to find out where you're at. So I recently did we recently did a new client, and we analysed their performance, and they ended up at 59%. Now, it's interesting because this example is very interesting. They ended up at 59%, and the conversation we had with them was about, okay, and the business itself was actually quite disappointed, and there was a lot of excuses. How are we measuring it? Are we measuring it right? Is this figures really true? Whatever it is. And look, my advice to the client was, look, it is what it is. It actually doesn't matter how we measure it. If you're at 59% and you are doing so well financially, because they were, okay, imagine what you will be doing. Okay, well, imagine what you would be doing if you actually improve that productivity of your people. Your room to grow is massive, which means that I can add lots of value. So that's kind of the journey that I take the business on. So ultimately, the framework does the work.
Yeah. I get what you mean now. Like with that framework now, people come to your website, they kind of understand now, okay, I'm here to fix the people doing, but then now I can see that you do this kind of holistic view rather than the compliance side. That's really interesting. So this company financially doing well. So what was the problem that they're facing that they go, hey, hang on, I need help in this area?
So ultimately the problem can be described in one word, okay? And it's not a problem. I'm not going to put it as a problem because it's not. It's at different levels in different businesses. But when they look, and this is based on the study also, when they look at the differences between the companies that were doing at 65% to the companies that were having productivity of 85%, the difference was one word, and that was morale. Morale. Staff morale. That's the only difference. So the way that a person feels when they go to work in the morning about their job, about themselves, about their value makes the difference of their productivity. And you know that. We all know that. We all know that we're feeling crap. We're not productive. We're not.
Yeah.
Okay? If our boss that day has pissed us off for whatever reason, okay, are we going to perform? No, we're not. Okay. So ultimately that's what it comes down to. So so knowing what it is one thing, but knowing how to change that and improve that across a whole business is not about one thing or two things or three things. It's about many, many little things.
Yeah, I get you. People problem is always changing and, never stops, right? As the company grows, there's more personality, more people to deal with. So it's great that they have someone like you to actually navigate through. So what would like a typical process look like? Is it, do you do an assessment on everybody? You kind of have a sense that you feel like there's some conflict going on. All right, I'm going to work with you. And then you kind of send out a survey across everybody and then go from there with the assessment. Is that how it works?
Yes and no. It's a constant procedure. So we have, when we start working for a business, we have a 30, 60, 90-day plan. So we start with making sure that we've got things in place to be able to measure, to be able to. So communication is number one. So how do we communicate with our people? How often do we communicate with our people? what do we ask them? And if we ask them something, they've told us something, what do we do about it? Okay, because people are not going to tell you anything if you're not doing anything about it. So how does that work? So communication is number one. So we start we start measuring, and then and there's many, as I said to you, there's so many different things that come into it. It's about then going, okay, do they understand what success looks like in their role? That's some basic stuff that most people, and I can put money on it. I'll go into any business and I'll walk the floor of that business and I'll stop at any staff member. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to ask them, how will you know today if you've done an amazing job or not? They will struggle to tell me. They shouldn't. They should know straight away. Because if they don't know how they'll know, then how are they ever going to do an amazing job? So we've got lots of different things we do, but most of it is communication and education. That's the education piece. And then everything else has to actually talk the same language. So if you're talking a certain language, and every business has their own language, it needs to be consistent. It needs to be in your contracts. It needs to be in your paperwork. It needs to be in your communication. It needs to be in everything, should have your language.
Yeah.
Just some things.
Yeah. It's interesting. I had a coffee with a friend who was actually she's a marketing agent. She's part of a marketing agency that actually helps big corporations to have like their own social media marketing communication just for their own team, because the company is so big now. You got to, in a way, take care of your employees, give them benefits, give them, treat them like your customer now. And I was so surprised in the amount of work that you need to do in order to retain the staff at that kind of size. So it only makes sense that as even smaller companies, we need to start thinking that way. These are the people that will run the company, and if they're happy, then the business will grow. Looking back now, why is it that you chose this discipline and stuck with it? Sometimes we land into a role and then somehow we like it, and that's why we're still here. What is it about the HR industry or the people side that you really fell in love with?
So my why, so I believe in the Simon Sinek start with why.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my why, yeah, I do. So my why is that I believe every single person is capable of greatness. And my purpose is to help them believe. So I think the difference is that people either believe it or they don't believe it about themselves. That's the difference. But every single person can be amazing. And that's kind of my why and my purpose. And that is one of and it's all obviously people related, because individually, that's what makes me feel good at the end of the day. If the business, if my staff, if the business, if the clients if those scores that we talk about are improving, that means that people are happier, that people are performing better. It means that their journey to their own greatness, is happening, and that's what motivates. That's what motivates me, and then the money comes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So you kind of fell into doing this, but it's really created a purpose for you, and you feel like you're already doing what you love, and success to you is creating, more empowered people and people discovering their potential. Now, looking back at your journey, as you started at 23, and now you mentioned you're in your 50s from our meeting, did it?
Yeah, I'm 52. Yeah. I started in sales, I would say, when I was probably 13, I'd say.
Oh, okay, a long time.
A long time ago, I started selling. And so sales is really, I think, my foundation. And then I did training in sales, and I became a master practitioner in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And that was a foundation for me to start learning and having an interest in how people think and how people tick. And then I started really looking into behavioural economics and reading about that. It's very new as an area, and I find it fascinating. And a lot of what we do is based on that, based on NLP, and based on behavioural economics.
Yeah. So what I was getting at was, at 20-something, you're fresh into the corporate world, and now what have you found as your potential? Like, what have you discovered about yourself, or who were you as a leader back then compared to now?
Oh, that's a great question. When I started as a manager, I was terrible. I was shocked. I was an amazing salesperson, and I thought, well, I can do anything. I can do this. I'm doing this really well, so I can do that. And I had people not promote me because, and not tell me why. And then eventually someone gave me an opportunity, and I did it badly for a while until I learned how to do it well. And what I found through the process, because I suppose part of my personality is I'm quite persistent and I will keep trying until I figure out how to do it well. One thing that I learned was for me to do it well, it had to be not about me anymore. As a salesperson, it's all about you. And then start managing people, and then it can't be you. And I think it also helped when I had children. I think it changes your mindset when you have children, because, again, you're not the most important thing in the world anymore. So someone else is more important than you are. So I think it's that mindset. And what I've found now, and it's interesting because I think I've learned such a big amount only in the last 3-4 years, and the biggest amount, I'd say. And I'm even going back the last couple of years, There's a saying, I think they say, when you're 18, you know everything. In your 20s, you know some things. In your 30s, you know little. In your 40s, you know nothing,
Yeah.
And it's only because you'll know that there's so much more to know.
Yeah. Yeah. I also remember a quote was something along the line of the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, because it's just more to discover.
Exactly. That's right. There's more to discover. And I think I've always been a person that looks at what's possible rather than what's not possible. I think that is something that I'm excited about, because it's about, if this is how far we've gone with what we've had, how much further can I go? Because every new piece of information that I learn, and I went to a workshop recently, actually, it was an EO Melbourne workshop by Matthew Pollard.
Yes.
It was amazing. He was amazing. And I learned so much, lots of notes, and I learned so much. I came back in here and I told my staff and I said, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. I was all excited. And that excites me to say, okay, I feel I'm pretty knowledgeable for my age, my experience and everything else. And talking and going into a workshop like that and knowing that there's so much more there that there is to know is amazing. I think that's exciting. But it means the potential is huge.
Yeah. So the short answer is your potential continues to grow, but it sounds like you've just become even more of a curious or a learner as you became a leader. So tell me about the EO journey. You mentioned that you're in EO, and I know you're quite a new member. Like, how did you hear about EO, and how's your journey been?
Oh, that was actually a really good experience. It's been an amazing experience. But probably October last year I joined. So I was speaking to a customer of mine, and we were just talking about it. And I was in another group before, and I don't want to say what group, it doesn't matter, which I wasn't really feeling that I was getting value out of. So, and I was talking to him about it, and he said, you know what, Leah, you should look at EO or YPO. But he said, I think YPO you're too old for.
That's so funny.
Have a look at EO. So I did, I went online, Googled it, and kind of put an inquiry in. I got some emails back, but not much happened. And then I used to get emails coming through. And then one day I got an email inviting me to a breakfast, an information breakfast. And I went there and I met some members, and they did there was some information about a membership. And I thought, you know what? It sounds interesting. Again, learning opportunity for me. And I liked their philosophies of how it came across. And so I joined. And it was interesting because then straight away after I joined, they said that I had to do a training day. I was like, okay, what are they going to train me on? Very funny, actually. I was thinking, what are they going to train me on? Okay, fine. Whole day, like 8 till 5, a whole day. Oh, my God, that day. So we had a class of 7, I think, of us in there. And we were exhausted.
Is this where you were learning the forum training? Or?
Yes, the forum training. It was just like, and it really, really challenges you, especially at my age. It challenges your thinking. It challenges you. And I'm a fixer, right? You give me a problem, I want to fix it for you.
Yeah.
That's how I'm, okay, let's just go fix. Otherwise, don't give me the problem. If you don't want to fix it, So it was interesting because that's not them. We don't fix it. We talk about our experience. And that thinking, was, and then at the end of the day, I thought, okay, now I understand why you need a day for this,
Yeah.
And I was really, really lucky that most of the people in our training were put together, and we're a seed forum. And it's been amazing. I love my forum. I love my the members, and I think we're really good together.
Yeah, oh, that's great to hear. I'm a 2-year member, and I'm still very excited as well. Well, thank you so much, Leah, for the opportunity to speak with you today. I learned so much about HR, and I've definitely taken note inside my mind because we all, as we grow, there's always going to be people problem, and I'm in the people game too. I hire people for people, and there's no guarantee with people. So thank you so much, and I'll make sure to put all your details in the description below so people can connect with you and learn about your people economic model.
Thank you so much, Lynn. Thank you.